Usually when we talk about a psychological profile, there is this expectation of pristine precision.
Absolutely, like a sterile lab setting.
Right. Exactly. You imagine sitting someone down in a quiet room, handing them a standardized test with nicely organized little bubbles to fill in.
And then a clinician just points at a chart and says, there it is. This is the architecture of your mind.
Yeah, like it's treated as binary, introvert or extrovert, thinking or feeling. It's this clean, comforting illusion that human behavior can just be neatly categorized in a controlled vacuum.
Well, it's comforting because we desperately want human behavior to be a visible, static object.
Yeah.
We want a map that never changes.
Right, but human cognition isn't a static map.
Not at all. It's a highly adaptive survival engine. It constantly shifts based on the environment.
Which brings us to the absolute destruction of that sterile testing lab, because when you step into the world of variety show environments and high-stakes survival games, that lab is completely on fire.
It's burned to the ground.
Totally. You take incredibly talented, highly competitive artists, and you drop them into a high-pressure, highly filmed scenario, and suddenly you're looking at a diagnostic landscape that is just incredibly murky.
Yeah, because these people are almost biologically forced to put on these intricate survival masks.
Oh, survival masks is the perfect framing.
I mean, think of the human brain like a computer trying to run a highly demanding video game. When you're in a chaotic, camera-facing moment where your physical survival or your social standing in the game is at risk.
Your brain just starts reallocating resources.
Exactly. It allocates all of its RAM to immediate tactical response. It forcefully shuts down the background applications.
Like deep emotional processing.
Right. The emotional processing, the abstract philosophical thinking, the quiet contemplation, because those things do not help you dodge a flying object or win a race.
So what you're observing in those moments isn't necessarily their core identity at all.
No. You're watching their fight-or-flight response, draped in a veneer of broadcast entertainment. They actively hide their true cognitive traits just to navigate the chaos of the matrix they've been thrown into.
And if you are listening to this right now, I want you to think about how you act during a hyper-competitive corporate team building exercise versus how you act alone in your kitchen at midnight.
They are two entirely different people.
They really are. And that stark contrast is the entire mission of our deep dive today. So welcome to Future_Music Deep Dive.
Glad to be here for part 2.
Yes, part 2, which we're calling The Reveal. We are moving way beyond the physical chaos of the initial games, and we're analyzing the cast's verified behavioral data strictly based on the episode 17 video.
Because that contrast is what makes the data so rich. You only truly understand the architecture of a person's mind when you observe how they behave when that external pressure is suddenly completely removed.
Right. Now, for everyone following along, we really need to ground ourselves in exactly where we are in the timeline because context is everything here.
Definitely. Timeline is crucial.
Just as a reminder, the songs are already released to the public, the digital competition is officially closed, the votes are in, the tallies are locked, and if you're listening to this, you already know who won that digital race.
The race is over.
Done. We have exactly 1 week left to see the final performance on the live stage, which, just to keep the timeline straight, was already taped back on April 14th.
Yeah, the anticipation for that final stage is palpable. But this specific window we're in right now, this quiet period before the broadcast of the finale, it's the perfect time to analyze the raw data of episode 17.
And this upcoming episode we're analyzing, it was taped during those intense competition days, but they aren't in a sterile indoor studio.
No, not at all.
They're at a glamping site, a campsite. And crucially, the producers didn't put them in an indoor gym for the games this time. They threw them onto a gritty outdoor basketball court.
Which is huge, because the sensory environment dictates the cognitive response. That outdoor basketball court is the crucible.
It really is. So, before we look at the psychological reveals of the campfire, we have to look back at the baseline established in episodes 15 and 16. We need to understand the illusion of the game.
The C bias.
Exactly, because that outdoor basketball court created a massive cognitive bias. In behavioral terms, it forced an extroverted sensing bias, or what we call an C bias. But explain to the listener what that actually means in the moment. Like, how does a basketball court change how your brain processes reality?
Okay, so think of extroverted sensing, or say, as your brain's physical radar system.
The radar system, okay.
Yeah, it's the cognitive function entirely focused on the present, tangible, physical world. It's tracking movement, reacting to physical sensations, processing spatial awareness.
Just reacting to what is immediately in front of you.
Right, it seeks immediate sensory impact. When you're sitting quietly reading a book, your say is basically asleep. But when the environment demands instant reaction, say just takes over the wheel.
And the producers demanded nothing but instant physical reaction on that court. I mean, let's look at the exhaustive physical games they subjected this cast to.
It was relentless.
They didn't start with a puzzle. They started with yoga, specifically forcing these exhausted musicians to hold the crow pose, literally balancing on their hands on the grass.
Which requires massive physical focus.
And then they threw them into a grueling three-legged race. And then, perhaps the most absurd sensory overload of all, a lung capacity grape juice game.
Oh, that game.
Where they had to suck liquid through incredibly long, connected plastic straws.
You really have to look at the sheer muscular strain of that. When your lungs are burning and you're trying to pull liquid through 3 feet of plastic tubing.
While a camera is shoved right in your face.
Exactly. Your brain simply does not have the processing power to ponder abstract concepts in that moment. You are forced into a hyper-tactical, purely physical existence.
And it didn't even stop there. The acupressure slipper relay race.
Oh, pain.
Right. If you have ever stepped on one of those little plastic spikes, you know it sends a shock of pure pain right up your nervous system, watching them trying to sprint while their feet are being assaulted.
And capping it off with a random racket badminton match.
Yes, where they had to hit flying shuttlecocks with soup spoons and frying pans.
It's pure chaos.
Yeah.
And when an environment demands that you react instantly to physical pain, to flying objects, to the screaming of your teammates, you are forcing the brain into that C bias.
You have to adapt.
You do. It demands a hyper-tactical response.
Yeah.
You either react physically or you fail the game.
But here's where the illusion takes hold, and this completely skews how these artists look to you, the audience. I mean, let's look at Jae Min. That's Jae Min.
Oh, Jae Min's a perfect example here.
During that grape juice game, he looked like a ruthless military tactician. He was aggressively coaching his team on the pure mechanics of lung capacity.
He was yelling at them to adjust their embouchure, to suck harder.
Just focusing purely on the physics of the straw. If you only watch that 5-minute clip, you would think he was a dominant, unfeeling commander.
And you look at Sawdu, too. He was managing the entire flow of the games with this incredibly loud, structured enthusiasm.
Blowing whistles, directing traffic.
Yeah, ensuring the games move forward. He looked like the ultimate hyper-organized taskmaster.
This is what I struggle with, though. A highly structured, camera-facing variety game artificially inflates these extroverted and perceiving behaviors.
Really does. It demands chaos.
It demands big, broad physical comedy and loud reactions. Because if you sit quietly on the sidelines, you just get edited out of the broadcast.
You become invisible.
So my question is, if a game forces you to act tactically just to survive the edit, are we ever really seeing someone's personality in those moments? Or are we just observing their fight-or-flight stress response? Like, how do we possibly separate the player from the person when the environment is that rigged?
That's a critical distinction to make.
Yeah.
We separate them through the lens of coherence and understanding.
Okay, unpack that a bit.
Well, to truly understand the architecture of someone's personality, you cannot rely on a single stress test snapshot. You have to look for the behavioral patterns that remain consistent when the external pressure is completely removed.
Got it.
The physical games on that basketball court, those were the necessary stress test. You need to see how the building sways in a hurricane to understand its structural integrity.
Okay, I track that. The games are the hurricane.
Right. But the campfire we see in episode 17, that is the structural assessment after the storm has passed.
That makes perfect sense.
And when you understand this duality, that the frantic tactician on the court is the exact same person as the quiet poet by the fire, it reduces our tendency to misjudge people based on high-stress snapshots. It actually allows us to view them with much deeper understanding and empathy, which ultimately reduces a lot of interpersonal suffering.
Then let's move out of the hurricane. The sun goes down over the glamping site, the string lights turn on, the outdoor basketball court is finally empty, and we move into the quiet intimacy of the campfire in episode 17.
The atmosphere completely changes.
It does. And for anyone watching, the shift in the atmospheric pressure is immediate. They pull out the acoustic guitars. They start preparing for the Manito, the Secret Santa letter readings.
Yeah.
And suddenly, the behavioral drivers of the entire cast shift from logical and tactical to profoundly authentic and value-centered.
The survival masks are carefully taken off, and the true cognitive functions just begin to breathe.
And honestly, nobody exemplifies this dramatic shift more perfectly than Jae Min.
Jae Min is a fascinating case study here. Based on previous data, his core cognitive profile is an ESFP, the performer.
Right.
His dominant function is extroverted sensing, supported by introverted feeling.
Now, I want to push back slightly here. On the basketball court, he looked like a pure tactician, a strategist. But at the campfire, when he performs his original song, Brand New, we see something entirely different.
Completely different.
Even with just an acoustic guitar, his delivery is incredibly physical. He isn't just standing behind a microphone stand. He's like scrunching his facial expressions. He's making direct, intense eye contact with the other members. He is literally leaning his entire body into the rhythm of the music.
Well, that is the C, the extroverted sensing, operating in a relaxed state.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. On the court, his C was used for survival screaming about lung capacity to win grape juice. But by the fire, his C is used to create tangible joy in the present moment. He is physically commanding the space, but he's doing it to elevate the sensory experience of everyone around him.
And the lyrics of Brand New are essentially an anthem for this exact cognitive function. I mean, he sings about wanting to waste some time and to leave work for tomorrow.
Very present-focused.
Extremely. He's singing about the physical reality of the weather and going outside to play. It is an absolute celebration of spontaneous, present moment living. There is no abstract philosophizing about the future. It's all about the now.
But the true psychological reveal comes during the Manito gift exchange. Remember, he was assigned to be Curie's Secret Santa.
This blew my mind. I mean, if you are a tactical thinker, a pure strategist who wants to efficiently complete a task, you just go online and buy something nice, you have it shipped.
That's what a logical planner would do.
Right. What does Jae Min do? He decides to hand squeeze actual oranges into fresh juice for her.
It is such a specific, labor-intensive, physical act of care. It requires his bare hands, it requires significant time, it requires complete sensory engagement with the physical objects.
But why juice? Isn't that just a random nice gesture?
Not at all. It perfectly encapsulates his dominant extroverted sensing, but it also reveals his auxiliary function. Introverted feeling, or PHI.
PHI. Okay, explain that.
Introverted feeling is an internal, deeply individualized moral compass. It's highly empathetic, but it expresses that empathy through authentic, personal action rather than broad social pleasantries. In his letter to Curie, he explicitly validates her hard work in poor, exhausting conditions. He genuinely saw her physical struggle during the games, and his feet told him she needed care.
Right.
And his C decided that the best way to deliver that care was to physically nourish her body with something he made with his own two hands.
I see the connection there. But the execution of this gift is where his personality type creates absolute chaos. Because he's an ESFP, a perceiving type, not a judging type. He is highly adaptable, but he is terrible at structured logistics.
The delivery of the juice is a perfect behavioral data point.
It really is.
A judging type, someone who needs structure and closure, would have placed that juice securely into Curie's hands. They would have controlled the environment to ensure the mission was completed perfectly.
But Jae Min just kind of leaves the cups of fresh juice out in the open communal area.
Just sitting there.
He cares entirely about the act of making it and the vibe of giving it to her, but he completely ignores the logistics of securing the perimeter.
Which leads to the guy in the red tracksuit just casually walking up and drinking 3 huge cups of Curie's secret Manito gift before she even realizes what is happening.
I couldn't stop laughing. It is hilarious, but look at Jae Min's reaction. He doesn't get angry. He doesn't throw a fit because his perfectly laid plan was ruined. He finds it absolutely hysterical.
That's the adaptability.
Right. His extroverted sensing thrives on that spontaneous, chaotic shared humor. The moment the juice is gone, he just immediately pivots and offers to ship a whole box of oranges directly to Curie's house to make up for it. It's such a beautiful, messy, deeply authentic ESFP moment.
He adapts to the reality of the present moment without holding on to resentment. That is the hallmark of healthy say.
So if Jae Min is squeezing the juice out of the physical world to show he cares, What happens when you look at someone operating on a completely invisible, abstract frequency?
That's a great pivot.
Because sitting right next to him is the recipient of his Manitou mission,
Mhm.
Koryu. And her transition from the basketball court to the campfire is staggering.
It is perhaps the most poetically beautiful behavioral shift of the entire cast.
Let's track the data. Back on the basketball court in episodes 15 and 16, Kiri was operating as what we'd classify as an adaptive supporter. She was just hovering in the background, she was cheering loudly, validating others, reacting to the physical successes of the heavy hitters.
She was essentially part of the audience.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Surviving the chaotic environment by staying out of the direct line of fire.
But when the acoustic guitars come out, she steps entirely into her own light as an INFP, the Expressive Artist.
INFP.
Yes. Her dominant function is also introverted feeling, just like Jae Min's secondary function, but her auxiliary function is extroverted intuition, or NI.
Explain NI to the listener. If say is a physical radar, what is NI?
Imagine the brain as a radar dish that entirely ignores physical objects and instead constantly scans for abstract patterns, hidden meanings, and conceptual possibilities.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, NI doesn't care about the temperature of the room or the physical logistics of a game. It cares about the symbolic meaning behind the game.
Which perfectly explains her original song, Trust Me. The contrast with Jae Min's song is genuinely jarring.
Very different vibes.
Jae Min sang about the weather and wasting time. Kiri's song is this deeply internalized, intricate exploration of her inner emotional landscape. The lyrics are heavily romanticized. She sings about these overwhelming, bursting feelings of confession.
It's all internal.
It has nothing to do with the physical environment of the glamping site. It's entirely about navigating the abstract, often turbulent landscape of human connection.
She is communicating her truest internal values, her phi, through the conceptual symbols of her neph.
And we see that cognitive stack perfectly replicated in her Manitou gift to Lee Owok. That's Owok. She doesn't buy him a snack. She doesn't squeeze him juice. She buys him a purple yoga shirt, which, granted, is a hilarious callback to a visual joke from earlier in the show. But more importantly, she gives him a singing bowl.
A singing bowl. An instrument designed to produce a resonant frequency for meditation and inner peace.
I mean, think about the profound psychological empathy required to make that specific choice. In her letter to Owok, she doesn't just say, "Good job on the games." She explicitly recognizes the hidden psychological burden he carries.
She sees right through the surface.
She does. She acknowledges that being the first place winner of the digital competition might feel incredibly heavy and isolating. She sees the invisible weight on his shoulders, and she wants to offer him a tool for abstract solace.
Curie is acting as an emotional bridge there. While everyone else is reacting to the physical reality of Owok as a competitor, she looks past the bravado and intuitively senses the quiet anxiety underneath.
Right.
Gifting a singing bowl is a highly symbolic gesture. She's actively trying to heal his unseen stress, increasing his overall sense of peace.
If you are listening to this, ask yourself, when you are stressed, do you want someone to bring you a hot meal, the physical sea comfort? Or do you want someone to send you a thoughtful book or a symbolic gift that shows they understand your internal struggle, the abstract need comfort?
It's a great question.
Because Jae Min and Curie represent two entirely different but equally valid ways of loving and supporting a group. Jae Min uses his bare hands to improve your physical vibe in the present. Curie uses abstract symbols to heal your psychological vibe for the future.
Both are deeply necessary for a group to function harmoniously. A group with only physical comfort lacks depth, but a group with only abstract comfort lacks grounding. They really balance the ecosystem.
I love that idea of grounding because it leads us directly to the person Curie was actually gifting, Lee Owok. Because Owok, along with Slowly, act as the undeniable quiet anchors of this cast.
The anchors, yes.
In a cast full of massive extroverted performers, they are the emotional resonators that keep the entire chaotic balloon from floating away into the stratosphere.
Owok is a classic ISFP, the reserved ace. And his progression from the games to the campfire is just a masterclass in quiet, consistent observation.
During the absolute chaos of episode 16, when everyone is running around frantically trying to accomplish their Secret Santa missions before the deadline, Owok is tasked with being Jae Min's Manitou. Now, Jae Min is loud, he's everywhere at once.
He's a moving target.
Exactly. So how does Owok approach this? He notices, with incredibly sharp extroverted sensing observation, that Jae Min's acoustic guitar is missing a strap.
It is highly practical, but deeply observant. He doesn't invent a complex, abstract gift. He sees a physical deficit in the environment, and he just solves it.
And he does it with incredible stealth. He buys a guitar strap with a sunflower pattern, specifically noting that Jae Min is bright like that, and he literally stealth equips it onto Jae Min's guitar without making a single sound.
Like a ninja.
He doesn't announce it, he doesn't draw attention to himself, he just fixes the problem in the background.
That physical stealth blooms into this incredible emotional sincerity in episode 17. When Oh-wook sits by the fire and plays his song, Shooting Star, the entire atmospheric pressure of the campfire just drops.
It gets so quiet.
It does. He explains that the song channels his long period of obscurity before he finally found success.
This is where I want you to clarify something. When he sings about obscurity, he isn't asking for pity, right? Because it doesn't feel performative at all.
Exactly. It is a profound display of his dominant introverted feeling, his phi. Phi doesn't broadcast emotion to seek validation. It processes emotion internally to seek authenticity.
It's a huge difference.
It is. He's transmuting his years of internal struggle into this raw, undeniable piece of art. He is offering his pain to the group, but he does it with such quiet, grounded dignity that it forces everyone else to reflect on their own journeys. It actually increases everyone's understanding of each other.
But the beauty of Oh-wook is that he never gets lost in that internal melancholy. He never loses his grip on tangible reality, which is where his C comes back in.
The grounding of Jae Min is the perfect example of this.
I rewatched this interaction 3 times because it is so funny. Right after the gift reveal, Jae Min realizes Oh-wook gave him the sunflower strap. Jae Min, being this explosive ESFP, absolutely loses his mind with joy.
He goes crazy.
He resorts to massive hyperbole, yelling at the top of his lungs, "I will only wear this strap for the rest of my life. I will never take it off."
And Oh-wook, completely unfazed by this wall of energy, doesn't match his volume at all. He just looks at him and softly replies, "Nowhere, other things too."
It is the ultimate grounded reality check. He is literally tethering Jae Min's explosive, hyperbolic energy back down to the physical earth. It's so dry, but so caring.
It also highlights Oh-wook's classic sunder nature. That's tsundere.
Tsundere.
For those unfamiliar, it's a term for someone who appears cold, analytical, or aloof on the outside, but is actually incredibly warm and soft on the inside.
We saw the exact mechanics of that during the Manda missions, too. Kiri was secretly assigned to Oh-wook, and her mission was to secretly feed him sweet potato snacks.
Right.
When she approaches him and awkwardly tries to offer him food, Oh-wook's initial reaction is pure analytical suspicion. He literally says out loud, "I'm the type to suspect when someone keeps trying to feed me." He's analyzing the incongruity of her behavior.
But his underlying warmth wins out over his suspicion. His phi processes the situation. He realizes Kiri is acting strange. He deduces she is likely his Manitou, and he sees she is struggling to complete whatever her hidden mission is.
So what does he do?
Well, rather than doing her cover or rejecting the food, he just quietly accommodates her. He eats the snack. He sacrifices his own boundaries, his own comfort, to help the younger members succeed and maintain group harmony.
It is such a subtle, invisible moment of leadership.
Yep.
He absorbs the awkwardness so she doesn't have to. And speaking of someone who absorbs energy to help the group, we have to talk about the other emotional anchor. Slowly. Sahi.
Slowly is the beating heart of the group's joy. We type her very confidently as an ENFP, the campaigner.
But I want to contrast her outward persona with what she actually does in private, because the edit gives us a brilliant piece of hidden context. During the games, Slowly was the ultimate audience member. She was always laughing, always reacting loudly to the absurdity of the rules.
Keeping the vibes up.
Always making sure the mood never got too fiercely competitive. She seemed entirely extroverted.
But the producers included this incredible piece of private night vision footage. At 2 a.m., long after the cameras have officially stopped rolling and everyone else is asleep, Slowly is sitting alone in her room, painstakingly hand-knitting a beanie for Sadu for her Manitou gift.
It's a massive psychological revelation. It shows that her outward chaotic joy is not just superficial energy. It is anchored by this deeply individualized, highly sentimental approach to caring for specific people.
She noticed everything.
She noticed, through careful observation, that Sadu likes wearing beanies. And instead of buying one, she sacrifices her own desperately needed sleep to physically craft something for him. That is her introverted feeling working in tandem with her extroverted intuition. She wants to manifest her care into a physical object.
But of course, the actual delivery of her gift to Sadu is where her her extroverted intuition takes the wheel and creates absolute comedic gold.
We have to talk about the letter reading, the infamous Majihayagori incident.
It is a masterclass in ENFP adaptability. Slowly wrote Sadhu a heartfelt letter to go with the beanie. But when it comes time to read it by the campfire, her handwriting is so incredibly frantic and illegible that neither Sadhu nor the group nor Slowly herself can actually decipher what she wrote.
Now put yourself in her shoes. If you are a highly structured, judging type, someone who values competence and presentation, you would be mortified.
Oh, absolutely crush.
You would be blushing, apologizing profusely for ruining the touching moment, trying to desperately explain what you meant to write.
But Slowly doesn't do that. She leans entirely into the absurdity of the failure. She uses her need to instantly reframe the situation. Instead of a ruined moment of sincerity, she turns her own chaotic handwriting into a shared puzzle for the group.
It's brilliant.
She's laughing harder than anyone else as the entire cast crowds around the paper trying to decode this cryptic alien text.
She turns embarrassment into a communal bonding experience, and I think this reveals something crucial about group dynamics. Think about how Owook and Slowly, working together on different frequencies, actively increase the group's overall prosperity.
Let's break down the mechanics of that interaction because it's vital. Owook acts as the heavy iron anchor. He grounds the high, frantic energy of the extroverts with his dry reality checks and his deeply authentic, slightly melancholic art. He provides emotional weight.
Right.
Slowly acts as the energetic resonator. She takes whatever energy is in the room, even embarrassment or failure, and amplifies it into joy. She ensures the mood remains light and buoyant, but she never aggressively demands the spotlight for her own ego.
They act as shock absorbers for the group. They reduce the interpersonal friction. They make it psychologically safe for the louder personalities, like Jae Min, to exist and take up space without burning the entire campsite down.
Precisely. They create the environment of safety. But they aren't the ones actively directing it, which forces us to look at the man who is actively architecting that safety. The man who holds the entire complex social structure together with his bare hands.
We are talking about Sadhu,
the protagonist,
Yeah.
the ENFJ.
I want to trace his evolution through these episodes because the whiplash is staggering. If you look at him on the basketball court, he was the loud whistleblowing MC. He was keeping score. He was demonstrating the grueling yoga poses. He was physically pushing people to compete harder.
He looked like an aggressive type A taskmaster who only cared about the rules of the game.
But the campfire reveals the actual engine driving his behavior. He isn't a taskmaster. He is a profound, highly sophisticated empath. We get to hear his unreleased song, and his explanation of the creative process behind it is textbook extroverted feeling, or fe, paired with introverted intuition, ni. He explains to the group that his recent experiences on a major public broadcasting show completely shifted his internal philosophy on songwriting.
It was a huge paradigm shift for him.
He said he stopped writing music about his own isolated individual feelings, and he started trying to capture the concept of universal comfort. He wants his music to actively soothe a collective audience.
Let's dissect that cognitively. He took a vast, abstract concept, the collective suffering, anxiety, and need for solace inherent in the human experience, and synthesized it into a singular, targeted musical vision.
That's the ni.
Yes, that is introverted intuition identifying the core pattern of human suffering. And he uses his extroverted feeling, his fe, to deliver the cure to the group. He desires collective harmony above individual expression.
And we see that exact same cognitive machinery applied to his Manitou mission for GWYN DORADO. This sequence genuinely blew my mind.
The level of strategic observation he deploys is unparalleled.
He didn't ask her directly what she wanted. He noticed, just through passing casual conversation earlier in the trip, that Dorado has a private hobby of baking. So what does he procure for her? A beautifully crafted ceramic bowl and a specialized wooden fork.
It's highly observant, yes. But it's the execution of the gift delivery that exposes his strong judging preference.
Right, compared to Jae Min.
Exactly. A perceiving type like Jae Min leaves the juice out for anyone to steal. Sadhu, as a judging type, orchestrates a flawless, secure operation.
He writes her Manitou letter using his non-dominant left hand so she won't be able to recognize his handwriting and guess his identity early. And then, during the day, he perfectly orchestrates the physical handoff silently slipping her the wooden fork while she is completely distracted by a game without breaking his stride. It is surgical.
Masterful social orchestration.
But okay, I have to stop here and push back on this, because as a listener, as an observer of human behavior, when I see someone constantly managing the group's mood, orchestrating these perfectly timed, highly curated moments of emotional resonance, I start to get skeptical.
Skeptical how?
Is this genuinely altruistic? Or is it a compulsion? Is Sadhu constantly trying to control the social environment, acting as the MC and the secret gift ninja, simply because controlling the room is the only way he personally feels secure?
That is an incredibly sharp challenge, and it cuts to the absolute core of the ENFJ profile. The truth is, it's a synthesis of both.
Both.
For an ENFJ, harmony is their security. They possess an almost hyperactive radar for social dissonance. If the social environment is fractured, unpredictable, or tense, they physically cannot relax.
So the control is mandatory for them.
Yes, his constant orchestration is absolutely a form of control, but it's a control aimed at mutual prosperity, not selfish dominance. He controls the room so that everyone in the room can finally relax.
Okay, I buy that distinction. The intent matters.
And if you look closely at the letter he wrote to Dorado, it completely validates his pure empathetic intent. He uses this incredible metaphor that requires deep psychological insight. He writes that Dorado is like a sturdy sandcastle.
A sturdy sandcastle. I love that imagery.
He tells her that to the outside world, to the cameras and the other competitors, she looks impenetrable. She looks like she can easily withstand the normal crashing waves of the competition. But he acknowledges that internally, even the sturdiest sandcastle eventually needs rest and support, so the hidden foundations don't quietly wash away into the ocean.
Wow. He saw right through her.
He is able to read her hidden emotional landscape. He sees the vulnerability she aggressively tries to hide behind her competitive banter, and he offers her highly tailored, precise psychological support. He uses his ability to control language and metaphor to make her feel profoundly seen and safe.
So what does this all mean for GWYN DORADO herself? Because Sadhu's sandcastle metaphor provides the perfect entry point into what I genuinely believe is the most complex, contradictory psychological profile of the entire cast.
You're referring to the GWYN DORADO paradox.
I am. Let's lay the groundwork clearly for the listener, because there is a massive contradiction in the data here. During the broadcast of Sing Again 4, GWYN DORADO self-declared openly on national television that her MBTI type was ENFJ, the protagonist. She claimed to have the exact same cognitive architecture as Sadhu.
Which, based on every single piece of verified behavioral data we've analyzed from episodes 15, 16, and 17, is a complete and total contradiction of reality.
Wait, you're telling me her own self-assessment is wrong and our observation of one glamping trip is right? How can we be so sure? Let's look at the baseline mask she wore during episodes 15 and 16. During those high-stakes physical games on the basketball court, she adopted this incredible, tactical, trash-talking, highly competitive shield.
She was ruthless.
She was cool, she was emotionally detached, she was completely unfazed by the physical chaos around her. If you only watched her during the badminton match, you would easily type her as an extroverted, thinking or judging type. Maybe an ESTP, or as she claimed, an ENFJ leader.
But that was the sturdy sandcastle. That was the survival mask. You have to look at how the building settles when the wind stops blowing.
Okay, let's look at the episode 17 reveal, the Campfire. You are claiming the true ISFP, the adventurer, emerges. Prove it to me.
The deconstruction of her ENFJ claim begins the exact moment she picks up the acoustic guitar. An ENFJ, like Sadhu, sings about universal concepts, trying to soothe the collective. Dorado's performance is deeply reflective, highly individualized, and almost entirely internalized.
And her Manadoto letter to Slily.
It is a masterclass in introverted feeling fae. She doesn't write broad platitudes about group harmony or collective comfort. She writes about the profound, almost cosmic serendipity of their accidental meeting. She specifically calls their personal connection an inspiration and a driving force in her own life.
That's incredibly personal.
It's an intensely private, deeply internalized reflection on what she personally values. It's not extroverted feeling. It is dominant fae.
Okay, that covers the feeling aspect, but what about the sensing?
Her execution of the secret Manado mission is driven entirely by auxiliary extroverted sensing say. Her mission was to secretly attach a keyring to Slowly. If she were an ENFJ, an intuitive judger, she would have overthought it. She would have orchestrated a grand diversion, maybe enlisted someone else to distract Slowly, carefully planning the logistics.
But she doesn't do that at all.
No. She just opportunistically, boldly reaches over and clips the keyring onto Slowly's clothing while Slowly is casually eating, without ever breaking her relaxed, cool demeanor. She reacts instantly to a physical opening in the environment. That is pure Say.
And her actual gift to Slowly was a retro mini cassette player loaded with Slowly's own songs, a highly tangible, aesthetically pleasing, heavy sensory object.
Which perfectly aligns with her private baking hobby that Sadu noticed. ISFPs process the world through tangible, tactile creation. They bake, they curate aesthetic objects, they value the physical sensation of art.
But to me, the most telling behavioral data point is her reaction to Sado's sandcastle letter. When he reads that incredibly deep, piercing observation about her hidden vulnerabilities, she doesn't do what a hyper-competitive extrovert would do.
She doesn't deflect.
Right. She doesn't crack a loud joke to break the tension. She doesn't perform gratitude for the cameras. She just sits there, absorbs the emotional weight very quietly, looks down, and simply says, "Wow, I'm touched." In that 1 second, she completely drops the competitive trash-talking shield. She lets the sandcastle walls down.
It is a beautiful, undeniable moment of authentic reception. An ENFJ would have immediately verbalized how much the letter meant to the group dynamic. Dorado processed it entirely internally.
So here's the million-dollar question, and I really need you to explain this mechanism to the listener. If her actual actions, her private reflective songwriting, her tactile baking hobbies, her quiet vulnerability, her opportunistic physical reflexes, if they so clearly align with the deeply internal, aesthetically driven ISFP...
Why the ENFJ claim?
Yeah. Why on earth would she type herself as an ENFJ on a national television broadcast? Was she just lying?
It wasn't a lie, it was a necessary adaptation. If we zoom out and connect this to the broader reality of the entertainment industry, her claim makes perfect logical sense. Think about what a broadcast survival show like saying, again, 4 demands of a participant. It's a grueling, hypersocial, highly collaborative, intensely scrutinized survival matrix.
It's literally a meat grinder for introverts.
Exactly. To survive that specific environment, an artist, especially an introverted, deeply sensitive artist with dominant phi, has to rapidly develop a highly curated, extroverted feeling mask.
They have to learn how to play the game.
They have to learn how to actively navigate complex social demands, how to lead collaborative stages when paired with strangers, how to smile reliably for the cameras, and how to project an unshakable, extroverted confidence so that producers trust them with airtime.
So you're saying her claiming to be an ENFJ was actually her describing the armor she was forced to wear every day on set?
Precisely. Her ENFJ self-declaration is a perfectly accurate reflection of her adaptive leadership mask. It is the sturdy sandcastle she deliberately built to survive the relentless waves of the broadcast competition.
That makes so much sense.
But when the cameras pull back from the studio, when the competition is paused, and she is just sitting by a campfire with people she genuinely trusts, the true ISFP core is undeniable. She doesn't want to manage the group's emotions. She wants to connect with them authentically, one-on-one, through quiet art and tangible shared experiences.
That is incredible. And it really highlights a broader truth for all of us. We are so quick to force people into these neat little diagnostic boxes or judge them based on a single stressful meeting without ever considering the environmental pressure we're putting them under.
The mechanism of understanding is simple, but difficult to execute. When we stop forcing people to compete for survival and instead give them the quiet space to share their handwritten letters, to sing their acoustic songs, to squeeze oranges, we drastically increase our mutual understanding.
We really do.
We reduce the interpersonal friction that causes so much unnecessary suffering. We finally see the complex human being instead of the two-dimensional competitor.
That is the perfect synthesis of everything we've analyzed today. The transition from the chaotic, sweaty, hyper-competitive glamping games to the quiet acoustic campfire allowed us to finally see past the illusions of variety television. We saw the tactical masks, and then we were privileged enough to see the authentic faces underneath.
And what a rare privilege it is to witness that level of psychological vulnerability on screen.
It truly is. But here's where we have to pivot back to the reality of the timeline. The campfire has burned out. The digital competition is closed, the behavioral data has been fully, rigorously analyzed, and we now know exactly who these artists are at their core.
The stage is set.
Literally. The final live stage is exactly 1 week away. So I want to leave you, the listener, with a final, provocative thought to mull over as we wait. Now that we know their true cognitive profiles and their deepest hidden vulnerabilities, from Jae Min's fiercely empathetic, chaotic physical energy, to Kiyuri's abstract healing, to GWYN DORADO's sturdy but delicate sandcastle, How on earth will these deeply held psychological traits manifest under the blinding, unforgiving lights of a live finale broadcast?
That is the ultimate test of the data.
If the acoustic campfire was their emotional sanctuary where they could safely take off their survival masks, will the massive live stage be their ultimate proving ground? When the pressure is higher than it has ever been, will they panic and put the tactical masks back on to win? Or will they find a way to bring the raw, unguarded authenticity of the campfire directly to the microphone? We will find out together next week. Until then, keep questioning what you see and keep diving deep.